Darth Vader has one of the highest kill counts in all of Star Wars history. Darth Vader is famous within the Imperial ranks for killing higher-ups within the Empire for almost any transgression whatsoever. So infamous, in fact, that he struck intense fear into many of the officers that served with him, and many would go through great lengths to avoid being on the receiving end of Vader's wrath. It began to get so bad that Palpatine had to actually call Vader to his quarters and tell Vader to stop killing people. But why is this? Why would one Sith Lord ever care if another Sith Lord were killing others? And why would this displease them? In all actuality, this came from a rather practical standpoint from Palpatine. Once he raised a brand new regime, Palpatine really took on the role of Emperor with great enthusiasm and much wisdom. He ruled with an iron fist for sure, but he had plans and dreams for his empire and wanted things to run as smoothly as possible. As a Sith Lord, he used the powers of the dark side and his own foresight to augment his position as the Emperor. For Palpatine, it wasn't just about showing power, it was about owning it. In the comic we derived this information from, Vader has just finished choking out an entire group of officers, and Palpatine decided to finally have a talk with him. He tells Vader that at times he believes his apprentice will kill everyone in the galaxy. The Emperor goes on to validate that he knows that the Jedi are gone. Life can be dull for Vader now that he knows that all of the Jedi are dead, and it's even worse when lesser beings deserving of their contempt are just running around, as well as running around being imbeciles, and that his hate is good for the dark side. However, Palpatine goes on to explain that using his hate as a tool to work for you is what you want to do to use it, and not become a slave to your own bloodthirsty whim. Palpatine finishes their conversation by simply stating that he doesn't wish to rule over a galaxy of the dead. This is a very interesting standpoint, especially from a Sith Lord of the caliber of Palpatine. In order to fully understand where Palpatine is coming from, we have to go a little ways back within his training. In Legends continuity, his training with Darth Plagueis really shapes how he views the galaxy as a whole, as well as where the Sith should be placed within it. Plagueis taught him the same lesson that Palpatine is teaching Vader, that to be a slave to your bloodthirstiness is a weakness. Plagueis says this: "We are not butchers, Sidious, like some Sith Lords of the past. We are architects of the future." Darth Plagueis was a businessman, one who used the dark side to aid him in his dealings and the machinations within the galaxy. Sidious definitely took after his master in the right place, and rather than being warriors or military conquerors, the Sith now represented something else entirely, something more significant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. These lines perfectly showcase the evolution of the modern Sith. There are lessons that Palpatine tries and often fails to teach to Lord Vader, as he tells Lord Vader, "I do not wish to rule over a galaxy of the dead." This is ultimately in the end why Sidious's training of Darth Vader held much to be desired. Vader was a Sith Lord that harkened back to the old days, the warriors, the Sith that were purebred conquerors above all else. But the Sith of the Rule of Two were different, and Vader was an exception. He was not a scientist, a politician, a businessman, or anything else. Darth Vader was a pure tool for the darkness. Sidious, as a young man, always wanted to rule. He wanted to make things the way that they were meant to be, and bring the galaxy to a place of prosperity and growth, in a way that he believed it never could under the eye of the Republic. Only a fully united galactic empire, Sidious thought, could truly bring out the best in what the galaxy had to offer all of its inhabitants. Of course though, with him at the forefront. No more senators bickering and pining for their own agendas. No more petty disputes between planets. No more insurrection. And best of all, no more Jedi. A perfect utopia, the grand plan of the Sith. Of course, in order for any empire worthy of rule, one must have people to rule over, and you cannot do so if they are, as Sidious puts it, all dead. But this is not the end of it. Another factor is that with Vader continuously killing subordinates, it was becoming a nuisance to have to constantly replace upper ranks within more officers. Even officers that did not want this position out of fear of Vader, and Vader was killing them faster than Palpatine could replace them. Vader cared little for one's rank, and he would kill any Imperial officer no matter how important they were, with maybe the exception of Tarkin. This is why Palpatine allowed for Grand Moff Tarkin to be in charge of certain aspects such as the Death Star. When Vader began to choke one of the officers for disrespecting the Force, he had Tarkin then rein Vader in and tell him to stop. Something that's important to remember about Darth Vader is Vader never loved the Empire. He never constructed it whatsoever. He was the tool by which it was born, but it was not by his design. The Empire was only the tool in which Vader focused his hatred and the darkness that he felt within himself, which is why Vader is more akin to the Sith of the old eras, such as Darth Malgus. Malgus, who said a similar thing for the Sith Empire, with Malgus stating that he didn't hold any particular love for the Sith or the Empire that they had constructed, but rather the Sith Empire was the tool for which Malgus focused all of his wrath and his hatred, what Darth Malgus called his purpose. This is the same thing going on with Vader. Vader and Sidious are in all actuality very different types of Sith, with different goals. Another thing to consider is that Palpatine was growing increasingly more concerned that Vader was not cut out to rule with the Empire. His apprentice for the first many years of the Empire's reign only seemed to care exclusively about killing Jedi and trying to find Obi-Wan. The Emperor continuously tried to show Vader that the Empire that they were building was what mattered, and that destroying the Jedi was only a milestone of the Sith grand plan. It was only the beginning and not the final goal. Vader was obsessed with killing the Jedi, and Sidious believed that the Jedi were no longer a threat and were now basically a distraction, something that annoyed him even more, as even in death, the Jedi still plagued his plans. This is why Palpatine turned to employing Dr. Silo to create many mechanical monstrosities that could perhaps replace Lord Vader, or rather serve as motivation and a distraction. However, when Luke Skywalker appeared, Sidious fully intended to cast Vader aside for a younger, more healthy Skywalker. By the time period of Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader had become all but a liability to the Emperor, and he was preparing for a younger, far more powerful heir to the Empire. But what are your thoughts on this? And what are your thoughts on the fact that Vader and Sidious are essentially different Sith and represent different eras of the Sith? With Vader being more akin to the ancient Sith warriors that simply wanted blood and to fuel their own power in the dark side through aggression, and Sidious, a master of the dark side, and yet at the same time a master manipulator, the true embodiment of the Sith rule of two. Something that we forget is along with being the one Dark Lord, Sidious was also the Emperor. But anyway, my friends and students of the Force, did you expect this take from Emperor Palpatine? And did you expect him to feel this way against Lord Vader? What are your thoughts on Darth Vader's incessant bloodlust to kill not only Jedi, but all of those around him? And as always, if you have a topic about Star Wars lore that you would love to see explored more in depth, please suggest it in the comments down below. As always, be sure to check out our other videos, and may the Force be with you.
Just let me fall to my